Okay, Charlie, I, for one, am going to need you to pull it together at least a little bit. Hazbin Hotel, episodes 3 and 4. I'm just going to come right out and say it. Episode 3, I didn't like at all. And most of the B plot of episode 4, I didn't like. I'm stressing and underlining the words I did not like, and I'm not saying is bad, because I understand that what I am about to complain about is specific to me. It is not shared by all audiences. However, if you watch the show, and especially if you've been around my channel and you know what kind of stuff I don't like, there's a word you might be expecting me to say that really made it hard. Cringe. Now, I know there's plenty of people out there who are going to go, Vera, Hazbin Hotel's already really cringe. Okay, let me be more specific. When I say cringe, I don't just mean like something that you think it's embarrassing for a person to enjoy. I mean a point in the narrative where secondhand embarrassment is a major factor, whether it is meant as a point of humiliation for a character or as something that we are intended to laugh at. I'm honestly not sure which it is with Charlie, but I hate that. And I understand that is a personal thing. Secondhand embarrassment is something I get very badly, and it is deeply uncomfortable for me, even in stories where I think it is fully justified to use it and it makes the story work. There are things such as the episode Nosedive from Black Mirror that uses cringe and secondhand embarrassment incredibly effectively in a really good story. It's still really hard for me to watch, though, because I just get so viscerally uncomfortable. And boy, did I have that watching Charlie in this. Oh my gosh. And the thing is, I'm not sure it is justified here. So, again, granted, I'm coming at this from a starting premise of I don't like how Charlie was behaving because it made me uncomfortable as a viewer, which is, again, a personal thing and not an objective fact, and I'm not claiming it is. But, all right, let's get into this. So, I understand part of her reaction and her behavior. I understand the effusive enthusiasm that she has after finding out that the hotel actually works and finding out that Pensius is in heaven. Totally on board for that. I can maybe, if I stretch it, get on board with the idea that in her excessive enthusiasm, she did something foolish like call up and or text or email Vox and say, come over and interview me so that she could try and talk about the hotel and the fact that redemption is possible. Where it lost me, though, is as she, even when confronted in her face, could clearly see, if she was paying any degree of attention at all, that Vox and Velvet were not acting in good faith, even as her friends and her girlfriend who love her were telling her to her face, this is a bad idea and these people do not deserve your good faith rebuttal or claims because they will not honor it, they will only hurt you, and she just ignores all of it. I can handle a character making a bad decision. Where it can get difficult, I'm not going to say impossible, but difficult for me to deal with, is when a character continually re-ups that bad decision in the face of the consequences of it. Again, I'm not saying that can never work. There's certainly tragic falls where characters get really roped into a mode of thinking that they can't get out of, or they assume there's no other way to be. Like, I can appreciate that, but that's tragedies. And while, okay, yeah, given the direction Helluva Boss has gone, yes, maybe Hazbin Hotel might turn into a tragedy, but I'm not sure that that's what it's trying to be in regards to Charlie. Now, it's possible for this to get addressed, but the level of naivete that Charlie exhibits in this goes beyond what I felt was reasonable, which made it even harder for me to watch. Again, I get the initial mistakes. I get the excessive enthusiasm. But also, I watched the first season, and she feels like she has not learned anything. Now, again, I know the kind of pushback I get when I criticize this show. So I know what I'm going to hear from people, okay? And I'm going to try and head a lot of it off at the pass, but I know some of it's going to slip through anyway. But regardless, I understand that character journeys and progression and change, either of fictional characters or definitely of real people, is not a straight line. You don't just automatically become better and better and better. You backslide. You make old mistakes. I understand all that. I'm in my 40s. Trust me, I freaking know. That having been said, it was easier for me to swallow things like, say, the trust fall exercise in the first season, because Charlie was just trying this stuff out for the first time. But then she was seeing that it wasn't working. I could even deal with her, like, her panicked real antsiness, because there was the sword of Damocles hanging over her head that was the moved up extermination that she was worried about, that was stressed and making her make, bad decisions, rushed decisions, just not being able to cope very well. I get all of that. But also she got on the other side of those things, and I feel like she should have learned something from some of them. And what it feels like is the show is using the excuse of her high degree of enthusiasm for finding out about redemption to just reset her back to a point where she didn't know anything because she hadn't tried any of it yet. But now she's acting like she still doesn't know anything when she kind of should, but they're excusing it with enthusiasm. You know what it makes me think of? And I'm gonna have to over-explain this, but it makes me think of Shrek. I don't know anyone else who uses Shrek as a point of comparison for what I'm about to talk about, but it's always the one that's most prominent in my head. Shrek is my go-to example as a franchise, not as an individual movie, of characters who are reset to be like they were in the first movie, even when it no longer makes sense for that to be the case. Because in the first movie, Shrek is grumpy and grouchy to everybody, and he was adorable and lovable for it. And at the end of that movie, he finds true love and gets married. But then in the next movie, well, we can't just have him be happy. We need that grumpy ogre that everyone loved. So they have to find a new reason for him to be grumpy. And in that case, they actually found a decent one. They sent him to a place where he wasn't comfortable, put him in front of, in-laws who were not particularly kind or understanding towards him. So it was relatively understandable there, which is why Shrek 2 is the best of the franchise and the only good sequel. Then we get to Shrek the Third. And the necessity to have him still be grumpy and grouchy the way that they were able to justify the first two movies is still there, but now they can't think of anything good, so they come up with this thin excuse of, oh, well, he's worried about the pressures of royalty, so he has to go and find this other guy to be king. That's real thin. Then we get to the fourth one, which I barely remember, and I feel like they didn't even really justify him being a grouchy bugger who made a stupid It's a Wonderful Life wish in the first place. They just kind of did that. It's just assumed like, oh, he just resets to grumpy every time. That's the pattern. We can just do that now. No, he should have grown by now, at least a little. And I'm kind of having that frustration with Charlie. I feel like they reset her back to her behavior from the beginning, not even like the tail end, like the beginning of season 1. Heck, by the end of season 1, you remember she was in Cannibal Town and she got so ticked off at Susan that she started screaming at her and was like, ah! That kind of experience is the kind of thing that should have carried over, where she's not just going to assume that people will have well-meaning and put up with them screwing her over to her face. It was real frustrating. And it was all the more frustrating because it carried over into the second episode, into episode 4, with her when she goes and does an interview with Katie Killjoy. Sidebar, Brandon Rogers, his performance as Katie Killjoy is fine. I know some people are bitter about the entire vocal recast from the pilot to the show. I'm not. It's what happens a lot of the time. It's pretty standard. I get it. What I will say is I am most annoyed at the vocal change for Katie Killjoy. Not because Brandon Rogers is bad, and not even because I specifically needed it to be the original voice, but the original voice had a very specific feel that this just is not. And it's not just a matter of changing the voice actor. The entire delivery of the character is different, and I liked Katie a heck of a lot more in the pilot than I do here. She's not awful, but she is worse. And I kind of always have felt that. It just was really evident this particular time. But anyways, coming back to Charlie. So she goes there and brings Nifty. You went into a situation where you are going into the lion's den with an organization that has already twisted your words. And yes, I know she thinks that if she can get on live, they won't be able to edit her in the same way, and so she has an advantage, which is, again, incredibly naive of her, but okay, there's a justification for that. Why are you bringing Nifty? What did you think was going to happen? Because, that's the part I'm really hung up on. The idea of going into a situation that you are not in control of, where you are going to try and exert control, and you bring as your support the Chaos Gremlin. And don't get me wrong, I like Nifty. I love that they brought back the gag with whenever she looks down the barrel of the camera, it's just blank in the big eye. I love that they kept that. Made me very happy. But why would Charlie bring her? Look, it goes real bad with Nifty there. I knew it would, but I just want to ask Charlie, what did you think was going to happen? What was the positive outcome that you were expecting would happen from having Nifty there? And why did you think that? I can't even comprehend what outcome she thought would happen that would be good by having Nifty there. What? When I don't understand what's going through a character's head, it gets really, really frustrating. So it's not that the entire idea of what happens with Charlie is bad. It's that first of all, they lean into secondhand embarrassment style cringe, which just makes me not like it. But I also think they just overplayed their hand. I think they overdid it. By the time she's got this freaking fake, character of somebody tying someone to a train. God, no, it hurt. It hurt a lot. Not everything in this third episode was bad, though. First of all, that was the one with the song, the duet between Cherry and Serpentious, which I liked. I liked that one. No, I am gonna. So I brought up last time, it frustrates me that it feels like the show is leaning on stuff that was mostly in the pilot, because it brings up, and this song also brings up, and it kind of banks on the idea that Cherry and Pentious were once rivals. And I said, technically and accurately, that never came up in the show proper. It did, but it came up in dialogue only. And something that I would really like people to wrap their heads around is that stuff that is shown is always going to carry more weight than stuff that is told. It is very, very difficult to have something that only occurs in dialogue stick, especially if it is in contradiction to the stuff we see. Because what we see happen between Pentious and Cherry is his crush on her. That is the vast majority of what we see happen when the two of them are in the room. So the couple of offhanded lines about them having previously been rivals, when that is not on display in the show proper, means that it still lands kind of weird. But all that having been said, I understand it is established. I still think it could have been and should have been established better in the previous season, but I still like the duet. I like the duet. I like the singing. I like the paralleling of the two of them. I like, this really heartfelt, emotional singing with big emphasis on words like piss. That's I'm not above that. That's funny. On principle, that's funny. So I'm here for that, and I get that. I really love that we are getting more of Angel Dust and Cherry Bomb together. There was some of that in the third episode and some in the fourth. I'm kind of blending the two together in my head. So if I say third or fourth episode, but it was actually the other, just roll with it. Please don't be pedants with me. I'm so tired. but I really like their dynamic, and especially because a lot of the pairings in actually this show and Hell of a Boss, since so many of the pairings are romantic in nature, it's actually really great to see a really strong platonic friendship bond between two characters, and I really like seeing that between Cherry and Angel, so that's great. I love that. What else? What else? Oh, the action scene, the fight scene in episode 4. Oh, baby, that was good. I loved that. I love that we got to see we got to see how the V's fight in general at all, which was kind of cool. We get some more stuff with Alistair. I'll come back to him. But we also get to see Husk. We saw him fight before, with sort of cards and dice. It felt gambling themed, but now it feels like he's just more broadly speaking Las Vegas themed, because now he's got like stage magician tricks as part of his repertoire. It's neat. I like it. And it's just a really great fight scene. It's fantastic. I love it. So that was the highlight for me of these 2 episodes, easily. Coming back to Alistair, lot of lore drops around him, which can go either way for me sometimes, because I've mentioned before, usually in reference to video games, but it can come up in TV shows as well. I care more about story than I care about lore. They integrated it pretty well here, and it actually informs what is going on going forward, so I think they did the lore drop pretty dang well. For some reason, it literally never occurred to me that Rosie could be the one who has the contract with Alistair. It never even crossed my mind. Well played. That was good. That was kind of a neat thing. And the little bits we see of Alistair as a person, I don't think I called it in advance, but like as soon as we saw him as a person, I'm looking at him, I'm like, New Orleans? Louisiana? Creole, maybe? And like all the way down, like, oh yeah, I got it. Oh, another thing that I called, unfortunately I didn't say it in the video, but I did put it in a pinned comment. I was 100% right, and I'm very glad it was on purpose and intentional, that Pentius's redemption was specific to him because of what his major flaw and major sin was. Because his major sin was in action, his redemption came from self-sacrifice to save someone, when his major sin was inaction that led to death. So I love that it's personalized. I love that that means that his road to redemption cannot be anyone else's. Everyone's has to be specific. It does beg the question, though, with someone like Angel, if the main reason he's in hell is that he killed somebody, which I'm assuming we'll get more details on eventually, it does legit beg the question, what is the redemptive opposite of that? Because you can't unkill someone. So that'll be interesting. And I'll actually, in general, be interested to see how in the weeds the show gets in terms of the questions of what is the redemptive opposite of this sin, and how possibly allegorical or metaphorical things are going to have to get, because there's a lot of stuff that there isn't a clear-cut oppositional action that you can take that might karmically balance that. Not that like action to save one person actually truly karmically balances you for failure to save another, but you know what I get. You know what I mean? They're parallel opposite actions, so they kind of that's why it works as a redemption. I'll be curious to see where we go with characters like Angel, or presumably the many other murderers that are in hell. You know what? The flashback with Vox. He's oddly cute when he's got a CRT TV as a head. It's like, and it's just little changes in the vocal delivery and like the outfit and his mannerisms. It's just little changes, but like he's kind of adorable. And then we come back to present Vox. He's just such a wicked little turd. I am enjoying Vox as a villain. Alistair, seeing him, cutting loose again is very fun again. It was an action scene that I really liked. I'm starting to get a better angle on what it is he's up to. Basically, it seems to, at present, from what we can see boiled down to, he never really wanted to be at the hotel. Rosie told him to be there, which means now the question is, okay, Rosie, what the hell are you doing? So we'll find out more eventually, I am sure. I'm trying to think if there are any other specific things that I wanted to be sure to hit. I'm drawing a blank. I know as soon as I finish filming, I'm going to think of something. So yeah, the Charlie stuff, which was unfortunately the bulk of the third episode and the B plot of the fourth, I hated that. Again, doesn't mean it's objectively bad. And I know I went off on it for a while, but it's me explaining why I dislike it. You don't have to. Okay? And even though I cited, things that happened in the show and explained exactly why, that does not mean that I am arguing their objective facts. So you telling me that it doesn't bother you or it shouldn't bother me because of XYZ, look, it just bothered me. I did my best to explain it, so hopefully you get it. Sorry, I don't mean to be so defensive, but I feel like I've been getting a lot more twitchy pedants in my comment section lately. And not just on Hazbin, which I honestly kind of expect, but like in general. And I'm just kind of, it's frustrating. That's all. So was the third episode. Fourth one was mostly good, though, because thankfully they skipped over the majority of that interview and just kind of jumped to the end. Whew. I consider that to be dodging a bullet. Hazbin Hotel, episodes 3 and 4. What did you think of these? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. The kind of jazzy song with Vox after he's captured Alistair. That one was fun too. I don't think any of the songs were like proper bangers this time though. I think the duet with Penchus and Cherry was the best song out of the songs in these two episodes. It's not a top tier Hazbin song though. But again, whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills. Enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe, mayhaps. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back. Next time you need a break, take a relaxed attitude. Dude, you just went on for so long. Oh, relaxed my ass. Whatever. Now to thank my highest supporting patrons. Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Subin Lutfulla, Auntie Kate 808, Mara G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Movie Turtle, Oliver B, The Baba Duchess, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Mary Mello, Becky Sparks, Loki Eris, Tracy Scrabbit, Pau Baraba Joggle, and Sir Didymus is my favorite. I also want to give my thanks to all the supporters who didn't get named because you are all indeed very nifty people. You could be a nifty person too if you go support me on Patreon. And there's the clause. Ugh.